Uganda is a very beautiful country. You know, it's this lush tropical country, very friendly people, but also a country made up of many cultures. All of these people live within a relatively small geographical area. Coming to independence in 1962, October 9th, Uganda became an independent country, got its independence from Britain. And there was a lot of optimism and relative peace. Now, that peace was shattered on January 25th, 1971, when Idi Amin, who was an army general, came into power. Now, at the time, we did not quite understand what was going to happen. But within a very short time, the insidious nature of the military government began to show. People began to disappear. People began to die. The army was everywhere.
Uganda slid into chaos and violent dictatorship. Life for Ugandans became unbearable. And for Lucille, Piero, and their daughter, things would never be the same.
She was very close and very, very affectionate, and she showed when her pain when she had to send me away. She felt very badly about that. It was terrible for her. I think it was worse for her than it was for me, because she had always said that one thing she would never do is to be separated from a daughter or from a child or something. That was one of the conditions she had always placed in front of my father. We will never be separated as a family.
Despite her strong feelings about keeping her family together, Lucille couldn't ignore the danger of what was happening in Uganda. This was no place for her child to live.
The decision was sudden because with Idi Amin's takeover, they sort of feared, you know, disorders and things like that. So they decided to take the opportunity and send me away quickly. Well, I was 9 years old, and of course it was terrible for me to go away. It was terrible especially for my mom as well, because she showed how really sad and desperate she was about this thing.
Lucille was just absolutely suffering. She felt almost guilty, did not know what to choose, the child and forget everything else, or the hospital. So you have to figure out that was a great suffering. And then when Dominique came to Milan, she found it very hard.
No, Mummy, it's I who have to go to Africa. I can't live in Italy. If I stay here any longer, I'll die. I want to live in Africa.
Dear Dominique, the situation here is too dangerous for us to leave or for you to return. You must understand, Dominique, your father and I have 2 children, a weak one and a strong one. The hospital is our weak child. We cannot abandon it now. Your loving parents.
I think the place would have collapsed. I think they had to work as a team, and they were a unit. And I think that if she had left at that very important time in the development of the hospital, I think there wouldn't be any hospital there now.
The hospital needed her, but Piero needed her even more, because she was the medical part of the operation. He was the managerial.
And the worst was yet to come. Idi Amin's nightmarish dictatorship finally lit a fuse. Ugandan exiles and neighboring armies joined forces to oust Amin. The country exploded into the horrors of civil war. Many foreigners left the country. Lucille and Piero stayed put.
Well, Lucille couldn't run away. If she had run away, she would have had to carry the entire 400,000 Acholi people with her. That's the short answer. The long answer is that she really felt that she was a part of the Acholi people. She couldn't run away.
Most of the population has escaped. They are now hiding and living in the bush. Gulu is deserted and devastated. We realized it was a ghost city when we finally reached the government hospital where all the doctors had run away long before.
And it happened maybe, as I said, twice. That she said, look, Piero, how can you keep on staying here in this condition? One day or the other they will get in and shoot inside and so on. All right, Lucille, okay, you are right. And then both times, when I woke up, she was already, she was in bed, but she was not sleeping. And then she said to me, look, I was thinking about what I said last night, but actually those people don't have anything against us. You know, we have their parents, relatives in the hospital who are treating them and so on. Why they should kill us? They're not going to do that. So I don't want to go away.
Many people usually ask me, didn't you feel resentment towards the hospital because your parents didn't come away with you? But how could I feel resentment towards the hospital? I was the one who wanted to stay in the hospital. It was normal that my parents stayed. I mean, it was no question that they would come away from the hospital. How could they? It never entered even my mind.
At the hospital, Lucille had now become a war doctor. The injuries were horrible. The hospital, a front-line facility. Both sides in the war sent their injured, and no one was refused treatment. Soldiers and civilians alike were victims of this terrible war. No one knew that a new, invisible enemy was stalking the land. The AIDS virus was traveling in the blood of the injured, waiting to strike down patient and doctor alike.
90% of her work was gunshot wounds, and she used to curse the, what you call them, those soft bullets. Apparently the soft bullets were the ones that really exploded inside bones, and then she'd be handling these bones, and she said sometimes in the theater she'd be changing her gloves 4 or 5 times, not for her own sake, but because the blood was coming out of her fingers and she couldn't see.
She'd cut herself.